Hello everybody, we're going through the psalm tunes now. We've done an intro with Recto, Tono and Tonus in Directum, and now moving on to the 8 modes. So there are 8 modes. I'm not sure who invented them, I haven't looked into it a great deal, but the main thing is Gregorian chant grew up before the modes were invented. So people didn't just sit down and say, I'd like to write a mode 2 antiphon and then follow the rules for mode 2 antiphon. So it was like they had this amazing treasury of all this music and they tried to put it into 8 little boxes. So a lot of the time you find chant does sort of have patterns, so it'll the chant will hover around, keep coming back to a particular note, and it feels more finished if it finishes on a certain note, so that the hovering note is known as the dominant and the one it finishes on is called the tonic generally. Okay, put in lots of comments in if I'm getting this mixed up, but this is how I understand it. So then we come to this diagram from this book, A Gregorian Chant Masterclass by Dr. Theodore Marie, KCSG, who has this diagram. So I'll put that on the screen, yep. So if you look down, it goes mode 1, then mode 2, mode 3, then mode 4, going side to side. But if you go 1, 3, 5, 7, you see this nice pattern. So that first note, re, mi, fa, sol, as you go down the page, and then on the right hand column you've got la, ti, do, re. So try that again, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. It's pretty much in order. Makes it look like there's a nice logical structure to it. On the left we've got the first note as being the tonic, and then on the right there's a note in the middle which ends up being the tonic. I've sort of penciled in the dominant because that comes later in the book. So that gives you a bit of an overview of where we're going. So that's the 8 modes. There are 8, what do they call it? Ancient modes, Mixolydian, Dorian, Phrygian, all that sort of stuff. They're not really the same thing as I understand it. So don't worry about that. Some people talk about mode 2 as Dorian. I can remember mode 2 and Dorian being related, but yeah. So even though there's 8 of them, it might be logical to start at the beginning and work our way down. But as if we're going from a psalm tone point of view, the beginnings, some of them have the same beginning. So mode 8 and mode 2 have the same incipit and mediant. Do you remember incipit? Every verse starts with an incipit, then it has the mediant and then a final. Yeah. So if we bunch mode 8 and mode 2 together, I think they're the easiest ones. And then we'll have done a whole quarter of the whole thing. We don't actually have any mode 5 psalm tones in the little office, so we won't worry about that one for now. And what else? Okay, so on to mode 8. So let's have a look at this Antiphonale Romanum. I've got a little excerpt from that here, and you flip to Octavus Tonus. So this is a lovely piece. Okay. Here we go. I'll sing it and then I'll say what it means. Okay, you're reading it already, aren't you? Octavus tonus sic incipitur, sic flectitur, et sic mediatur, atque sic finitur. Or you can have atque sic finitur. And lastly, atque sic finitur. So translated, that means the 8th tone begins like this. And this is how it bends, and this is how it is middled, how the middle bit goes, and this is how the end goes, or, and this is how the end goes, or, and this is how the end goes. Actually, it doesn't have or in there. Vel is Latin for or. So you see that there's a lovely appendix, so they go through all 8 tones like that, and then they have 101 different examples on every possible variation on that. Okay, but yeah, this one's not too tricky because there's only one accent for the mediant and one accent for the end. So we can talk about accents next time when we get on to mode 1 and mode 6, I hope. Okay, so Magnificat. Now the Magnificat is a good example for where we are in the little office because there are 4 different psalm tone sort of settings for the Magnificat. We use mode 2 for 2 different seasons, 2 different mode 2s, and then mode 8 for one of the other ones, and the other ones are mode 1, so we'll get to that next time. So here is Mode 8, Magnificat. Magnificat. Oh, it's got a ... So let's change to the Vespers booklet. Here is the Vespers booklet I prepared earlier. Magnificat's towards the end. And the Mode 8 one is the one for Advent. Magnificat anima mea Dominum, et exultavit spiritus meus, in Deo salutari meo. Now, this time I've got the little hollow notes showing where you put your extra syllables if you have too many syllables. So yes, usually the accented syllable will be the second last one of whatever verse you're doing. So, but sometimes, like in Dominum, it's the one before the second last one, so you have that extra syllable shaking around, and so that's the hollow notes show you where to put those syllables, how to sing those syllables. Okay, so what do you get up there? You see the first line, Magnificat, is too short to do all the variations, so that's why they write out both lines. And because it is a canticle, we do the incipit for the beginning of every line. So that's why it's et exultavit, and then it would be qui ad spexit humilitatem ancile sue, et genem ex hoc beatum dicent omnes generationes. Okay, so that's the ending. Da 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 da. Is the most common one for 8G. There is an 8C somewhere else in the little office. And anyway, can I just... It'll be written out like that in the booklets, but it'll go da 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 da. So that's to look out for if you find that. Okay, on to mode 2. Let's see what the antiphonale has to say about mode 2. Or tonus, secundus tonus. Secundus tonus is the same sort of thing. Sic incipitur, sic flectitur, et sic mediatur, atque sic finitur, da 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 da. Atque sic finitur. Oh, I don't see any difference there. Oh, I see the difference with the A. See, it has the D ending and the A ending. The only difference is the clef is in the different spot, which kind of matches up with what... See, I could say it's actually a different beginning because it has a fa clef instead of a do clef. So the mode 8 stuff had a do clef there. The second tone one has a fa clef there. So, okay, so you see the Magnificat is there, and it's just about exactly the same. Magnificat anima mea Dominum. Oh, so the ending is different. Anima mea Dominum, et exultavit spiritus meus, in Deo salutari meum. I just merge into the Vespers booklet. Okay. Qui audes spexit humilitatem ancile sue, et genem ex hoc beatum dicent omnes generationes. Except I can't merge because I did the solemn tone. Okay. Who noticed that one? So now I can talk about the solemn tone, because I like the solemn tone. So we saw in 8G that exultavit was just a simple et exultavit, and here in the Vespers booklet it says et exultavit spiritus meus, in Deo salutari meo. And you can keep that going. You can see there's some preparatory syllables in the next line. Qui audes spexit humilitatem ancile sue, et genem ex hoc beatum dicent omnes generationes. So that is exactly the same as the solemn tone. Well, the beginning is the same for the solemn tone for the mode 8 as well. So if you actually have a fancy time in Advent and you want to do the solemn and Magnificat, that's where you can look it up in these booklets, or you can get there's probably lots of ways you can find the different ways to sing all the different psalm tones. Okay, so that's 2D. We looked at 2A as well. So the Christmas one was supposed to be 2A. Yep, it uses a do clef, so it's the same tune except for having a do clef. Oh, actually I got the do clef is there in the antiphon, but when I've put in the Magnificat, it's actually gone back to a fa clef. Okay, so I might fix that up in a future. check your version of the Vespers booklet, see if I fixed that one up, or if I just left it, because people can usually cope. Okay, so we've talked about mode 8, we've talked about mode 2, we've talked about Magnificat, but we haven't talked about using it as a psalm tone. It's really simple. So let's flip back to Psalm 126. It's a mode 8, or it has a mode 8 antiphon with it. So we sing it, Nisi Dominus edificaverit domum, in vanum labora verent qui edificant eam. Then, because it's a psalm tone, we start on the reciting note, Nisi Dominus custodire civitatem, frusta vigilat qui custodit eam. Vanum, da-da-da. So the incipit for every verse is only in the canticles, the gospel canticles, which is Magnificat, Benedictus, and Nunc Dimittis. Okay, so I think that's all the information you need. So I hope some of that helps. Don't want to make it too complicated. Now I got mode 8 and mode 2 under your belt, mode 1 and mode 6 to go, and then all the other ones. So thank you. If you'd like to learn more about singing Little Office, I have a course on Udemy and Gumroad, and you can see more at littleoffice.brant.id.au. So God bless, all the best. Bye.